And as promised, we are here with Dr. Darlyne Haan from Neighborhood Science, and we thank her so much for taking time out of her busy schedule, especially on Thanksgiving week, to be here with us. How are you today, Doc?
I'm doing great, Raymond. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you for always supporting my work. I always appreciate you.
Well, your work is so important. Way more important than being a radio station DJ.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
I mean, yeah, way more important. We need more people of color with doctorates, especially in the sciences, and radio station DJs not so much. But I try to make what I do important a little bit anyway, and have some fun along the way.
Yeah, well, you know, through the radio station, you're able to, inform people by doing things like this and interviewing people in the sciences. So it is very, very important as well, because you have a venue or a way to get the word out there. So that, I think, is just as important. We need people like you.
Well, you're the scientist, you would know. You're the scientist, you would know. Hey, let me ask you a quick question, and if it's too personal, you can say it's too personal, you don't want to talk about it. But this is just based on Neil deGrasse and some other scientists I've talked to and seen on the tube and stuff like that. You believe in God?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, and
Very
I don't want to
so.
get in the whole,
No, I very much so. Yeah, I believe that he has blessings. I believe we have a purpose, and I definitely believe there is a high being. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah. I say that proudly.
Yeah, I will say this: I'm not anti-science, but I don't see the conflict, and we're not here to talk about that. So I just wanted, it was a point of
I think that
me being inquisitive.
Yeah, I think that pretty much stems from if you believe in creation or evolution, and I think that's where they have that science conflict piece there. But I don't think they that one impacts the other. You know what I'm saying? I don't see why there's a problem, why there's a clash. If they say, oh, if you're a scientist then you believe in evolution, and if you believe in God, you believe in creation, you have to believe in one or the other. And I don't believe that. I believe you just should have your belief, and whatever your belief is, that's what it is.
All the people I've ever talked to in my life, and I've talked to a bunch of people, I was working temporarily at an alternative school. Now, when they say alternative school, that's shorthand for where the bad kids go, or the quote-unquote stupid kids go. I met a kid there named Kimar. Told me something that was way more intelligent than anything you've told me, Tyson or any, This is what he said. He said, we were talking about this, and I said, Kimar. And trust me, I'm trying to be slick. You know what I mean? As an adult, like I'm gonna see where this kid's head at. You believe in creation or you believe in evolution? He said, I believe, Mr. Raymond, I believe in both. I said, hey. Now I'm like, well, you can't believe in both. You got to pick one or the other. And he said, he looked me dead in my eye without missing a beat. He said, Mr. Raymond, he said, I do believe that man was created by God. I said, well, then you don't believe in evolution. He said, what does evolution mean, Mr. Raymond? Change. Yeah. He said, the only way you stop changing is if you die. I was like, I wanted to go upside his head. Now, to the white folks who are listening, it's a colloquial black term of endearment. I was not about to go upside the boy's head, but I was frustrated because a child with that kind of insight, I know people with doctorates who don't have that kind of insight. What do you? And I asked him, "What the heck are you doing in alternative school? If you can process information like that, you should be teaching here." I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah, no. It's I think that's a really good response. definitely.
I would never, and I tell that story over and over because I would never in 100 years be able to answer that question like that.
I like that. I have to remember that. Very
Ladies
good.
and gentlemen, she is Dr. Darlyne Haan, the star of our show today. Tell us about your animated series that you do.
Oh yeah, I'm real excited. It started out as just I've always been creative, so I always
Right.
liked anything with animation. I always liked things with technology. That's always been my thing. Like when I
Right.
did my first masters, I learned how to use Pro Tools, and I created beats and I created rap so that kids could learn science to rap. So I've always
Right.
been like this creative side of me. So now that I'm in retirement, I'm like, now is my opportunity that I can learn animation because I'm really into AI. And I know you and I have our thoughts about AI.
Right.
But I said, that's an easier way for people like me who aren't artistically talented like yourself, right? And I can still create these animations. So I really, did a lot of research and learned a lot of programs. And I said, I want to create a animated science series for kids to really turn them on to science, but I wanted to make sure that I were representing minorities. So it's called Max's Adventures, is what it's called.
Okay.
And there's a second one that's called Dr. Dahan's Science Adventures, where I have four other animated characters, but that one is more for middle and high, but I'm not there yet. So
Okay.
I'm working on Max. And so what Max does is a young boy, he's about 8 years old, African-American boy, and he has these experiences and we turn them into science. So the first one I did was on littering, on recycling actually, and it's called the Rapper Trap. And so he learns about, this one rapper who won't go away until he puts him in a recycling bin. And then the second one was a cavity one, the great cavity, and that's when he learns about brushing teeth and what cavities are. So I try to make it something that's everyday things that kids can relate to, but then I do the science spin on it, so they learn the science behind it. And just about a week ago, I launched a teacher's guide that aligns with the NGSS, which are the science standards, so that teachers can now use it and use the video and the science lab that accompanies it, so they can do it with the kids. So the kids have a visual, which is the Max, and then there's science activities that they can do, and I'm real excited about it.
Okay, all right. You're just tuning in. You're listening to The Light. We're powered by AtlanticCityFocus.com, and in maybe about a week or so, you'll be able to see this interview at AtlanticCityFocus.com, and we're so glad to have Dr. Darlyne Haan discussing science with us. So my next question would be, because to me, you're like you're like Merlin teaching other little wizards. We don't see a lot of. I'm not saying that they aren't there, but we don't see a lot of people of color talking about advanced sciences. I like Neil deGrasse Tyson because he's a interesting
He's amazing.
bird.
Yes, he is amazing.
I mean, I think I was watching one show where he was on, and he just said out of the blue, if you stacked, and I'm making up the number because I don't remember, like $4 trillion, you can stack $4 trillion $1 bills from here to the moon. I'm like, who else but him would know that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we don't see a lot of scientists, and I wonder why, which you can't answer, but I think it would be cool if we had African American engineer doing a TikTok series,
Yeah.
and maybe they're there because of the fact that I'm into writing. I do find a number of English teachers who do TikTok videos on tenses and words and things of that nature, but I don't see them as far as the science is concerned. I only see you and Dr. Tyson.
Yeah, and I think, to piggyback on what you just said, there actually is there actually is a reason why we don't see that many minorities or females in the sciences, and there's this thing called the leaky STEM pipeline, and it's
Okay.
real. And what happens is a lot of these STEM classes, and this is something that's in my book that I wrote in STEM, but the book was written for multilingual learners. Like, how does a general education teacher teach STEM
Right.
to a student whose first language is in English, right? A multilingual learner. But what this leaky STEM pipeline states is that there are so many unnecessary prerequisites for kids to be able to take STEM classes, right?
Okay.
And so when you're talking about multilingual learners, where more than 60% of them are living in low income or poverty areas, and you have a lot of minorities who are also living in these poverty areas, they don't have these prerequisite skills because their parents don't have the money to send them to the summer programs, right, with their summer programs, and everything they do has to be encompassed within the school because it's included, right? It's not an additional fee. You have, kids from city areas who they have transportation issues, so they can't get to the other town for their kids to be involved in it.
True.
So there's all these prerequisites, and because our kids enter school without these prerequisites, they're filtered out. That's why it's called a pipeline, a leaky pipeline. They fall through the holes in the pipeline because they don't have those skills to say, okay, you can now take a STEM class. So they're excluded early on. To me, it's systemic. It's systemic, and I might upset people out there, but it's a systemic way to keep the minorities out of the STEM fields. And so we have to be aware that this leaky pipeline exists. Schools need to change their criteria and not make all of these prerequisite skills and let all kids experience STEM education, because STEM is really great for L's because of the way you can practice language, but you also, you have to give the kids the experiences, because by 7th grade, we lost a huge percentage of our kids on the STEM pipeline, and they don't make it. And that's why we see not that many doctorates in STEM. We don't see college degrees, bachelors in STEM, because they have been excluded between the grades of K to 6.
Wow, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light right here on 91.7 WLFR Pomona here on the campus of Stockton University. We're here with Dr. Haan. How can people find your series? Oh, and will we see the return of neighborhood science? Because I really enjoyed that too.
Yes, this one, Max is under neighborhood-science.com.
Okay. All right.
That's where it is. That's where it's housed. So, but yeah, the next one for Max is going to be on social emotional learning, and it's how to control feelings, but it's the science behind it. So it's fight, flight, or freeze. So the kids learn about fight, flight, or freeze. They learn about SEL, social emotional learning. They know about breathing and mindfulness, and how they can, as Max would say it, take big feelings and make the big feelings small. So, and then the kids do a science experiment with a balloon, because Blue the balloon is the accomplice with Max and this learning experience that teaches Max how to control his breathing and to recognize when his feelings are big, because Blue the balloon changes colors based on Max's emotions. So Max, when the balloon turns red, then Max realizes, okay, I'm having a big feeling, and then they go in and they practice the breathing. So it's really great, but that's due out December 1st.
Okay, so I got to take you back.
Okay.
What made Darlyne Haan decide, I am going to take this big world of science and numbers and equations and a lot of other stuff that I don't understand and break it down in a way that even a radio station DJ could understand?
I think I have to give that credit to my mother.
Okay.
My late mother, Edith Oliver, and what she always told me was, Darlyne, if you can't explain it, you really don't know it. And I lived my whole life on that. So it was a way for me to explain the science so that the kids can understand the science. And I always liked animation, cartoons and animations. I always liked those kind of things. I was a big cartoon reader growing up, and Andy Capp, Calvin and Hobbes, Peanuts, all of them. I just loved cartoons.
About Calvin and Hobbes.
Yes, I loved Calvin and Hobbes. So,
Talk about classic literature there, and Peanuts too.
Yes, all of it. And so I always enjoyed that type of look,
Right.
that cartoonish kind of look.
Right.
And I always thought animation was great, but I'm not an animator, I'm not a drawer, right?
Right,
So
right.
AI really helped me in that
Right,
part.
right.
But it's why it's just to make it simple. Same reason why I started Mad About Science, my nonprofit. That's now I stopped the nonprofit now, but it was a way to simplify science,
Right.
and
right.
also for teachers and educators and for kids to see that science doesn't require equipment, like expensive equipment.
Right.
You know what I'm
right.
saying? There's science under the kitchen cabinet. There's science in your garage. There's science when you walk outside. There's science in a balloon.
Yeah.
There's science just when you push a car,
Right,
a little
right.
toy car. Like all of that is science. And I think, and my mother always allowed that creativity for me. Like my
Okay.
biggest thing was flour and water mixtures and going under the sink and mixing stuff. Probably not the safest thing nowadays, but she always gave me that leeway. And
Wow,
so
you
that's
still
what
have
I
all
did.
your eyebrows.
Yeah, all my eyebrows, no burnt up skin. But she gave me that freeway to be inquisitive.
Okay, so wow, I lost that train just that fast. Oh goodness, see, that's why I'm supposed to take notes.
Yeah. Yes,
If
you asked
just-
me what started me with doing Max.
Right. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light. We're talking to Darlyne Haan from Neighborhood Science, and why she, how she decided to make science readily available for everyone. I want to talk a little bit, since you brought up cartoons. One of the things that I've never understood is why sometimes I feel like I'm the only person who has learned anything from television. Like all the times when we were coming up, the TV will rot your brain, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I learned a lot, from Calvin and Hobbes, Peanuts. First time I learned about business, it was a Looney Tunes cartoon with little mice in a factory, and they were talking about consumers versus producers,
yeah.
and how that works, and then getting your product to market and everything like that. And again, it was done in a way that was fun. And I think I talked about this before. You know what? I really should pull it up. There was a series called Tennessee Tuxedo, and then there was a character named Mr. Whoopi who had a three-dimensional blackboard who would teach science principles like the fulcrum,
Okay.
in the middle of the show each day. So there are opportunities for people to learn if you want to learn, if you want to get just beyond the jokes. But I don't understand why people tend not to do that. I mean, like, I'll give you an example as an adult. When I watch the Jeffersons on TV, yeah, he says a lot of crazy stuff, and he gets into it with Florence. But then there's a lot of hardcore stuff about running the day-to-day business and expansion, that, how to deal with banks, how to, I'm like, this is deep.
Yeah.
If you want it.
Yeah.
If you want it. So I'm glad that that's something we have in common.
Yeah.
Long division, no. Fractions, not so much. But learning from cartoons, yeah.
Yeah, because when you think about it, cartoons and books is a medium that's not intimidating, right? So if we can teach things in a medium that's not intimidating, kids are gonna, it's the same thing, that flight, fight, or freeze, right? So if we teach something, number one, that's not intimidating, if we teach it through a means of something they see every day, then it doesn't become scary, and kids are going to be more open to it. So that's why cartoons are really great in a way to teach. That's why you can teach science and math through movies. There's all things that we're aware of, we're used to seeing, and it's not intimidating to us. And we can teach through children's books as well.
Would you do me a favor?
What?
I want to play something, and if you don't mind, I'd like to get your feedback or discuss it afterwards.
Okay.
Okay?
Putting me on the spot. It's all good, Raymond. It's all good.
I'm putting you on the spot. You're listening to The Light right here on the mighty 91.7 WLFR promoter. We're here with Dr. Darlyne the Haan, and from when I was a little boy, this is actually a public service announcement. It's about 2 minutes long.
Okay.
Called Elementary, My Dear, from Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh, okay.